Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Ong. Thank you for joining us today. Demand of increased awareness of effective non-pharmacological practices such as chiropractic care and Chinese medicines are gaining traction worldwide, including Malaysia. International Medical University, IMU, offer the programs under Center of Complementary and Alternative Medicines. The center offers Bachelor of Science with Honours Degree program in Chiropractic and Chinese medicines, both of which meet regional and many international standards and requirements for licensure. The center also offers a part-time master degree program in acupuncture that has been designed for healthcare professionals. Today, global university students affected by campus closure are responding to roll call from their lessons online. With this sudden shift away from the classroom and residency training, some of us may be wondering whether the adoptions of online learning will continue to persist during and post-pandemic, and how such a shift would impact the teaching and learning in medical education such as chiropractic and Chinese medicines. With this in mind, we are delighted to invite two key speakers from Center of Complementary and Alternative Medicines to share with us the insight of these comprehensive care practices and the experiences of online learning during pandemic. First, we have speaker from Chiro program, Dr. Wong Yi Kai. Dr. Yi Kai is our pioneer cohort of chiropractic graduates from the International Medical University. He obtained a Master of Science in Public Health from IMU and has been instrumental to the development of chiropractic care in Malaysia. His contributions in the industry, professional body, including Associations of Chiropractic Malaysia, Federations of Complementary Natural Medical Association Malaysia, World Federations of Chiropractic and Traditional and Complementary Medicine Division, Ministry of Health Malaysia. Presently, he is the Program Director of Bachelor of Science Honours Chiropractic Program. Secondly, we'd like to introduce the speaker from Chinese medicines, Dr. Wong Fong. Dr. Fong possesses a Bachelor of Medicine degree from Shandong University of Traditional Chinese Medicine, a Master degree with merit in History of Science, Medicines and Technology from Imperial College London and University College London, and a PhD degree from Shanghai University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Currently, Dr. Fong is the Program Director of IMU Bachelor of Science Honours Chinese Medicines. Let us welcome Dr. Yi Kai and Dr. Fong on board. Hello, good afternoon to both of you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hi, so now the very first questions we'd like to ask both speakers. What are the challenges faced by your respective program, Chiro and Chinese medicines at IMU, as both have different way of teaching and learning, and what differences of this program now and previously? May we hear from Dr. Yi Kai and followed by Dr. Fong?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Siew. So for chiropractic program, since the start of MCO or the pandemic last year, so a lot of our teaching and learning, especially lecture, tutorial, and small group learning, we have moved it into the online session. So we have online synchronous and online asynchronous sessions for lecture. And for practical, while the government allowed, we do bring back our final year students to come back for their practical and clinical training.
Okay, Dr. Yi Kai, can I just interrupt? Online synchronous, what do you mean by online synchronous classes? Can you elaborate?
Okay, so in terms of online synchronous mean is we're having online session and the student and the lecturer will together in the platform and do the teaching and learning together with the student.
Okay, Dr. Fong, would you like to give us your insights on the teaching and learning for Chinese medicines?
Thank you, Dr. Ong. So for Chinese medicine, we have a similar situation like Chiro too. So since last year, when the pandemic first started in March 2020, most of our teaching and learning has moved online. Okay, so therefore, even with current situation in a full lockdown, we would still able to continue with our teaching and learning. Most of the time, our teaching and learning is actually conducted in a hybrid mode. So when I say hybrid mode, what I mean is for lecturer, for workshop, for tutorial, or even those involved like presentation, we will conduct it online. So basically, online sessions continue, but there are also sessions that we cannot deliver online. So things like those essential skills, for example, needling, reading your pulse, or even going on to clinical attachment, those sessions would have to be conducted face to face. So therefore, it is considered as a hybrid mode learning.
All right, great. Thank you for the update. Can I just conclude that, online classes will be on theoretical, and then some practical classes, you still require them to come back to the campus, and as well as you will do some hybrid of online practical videos.
Yep, you're right. Absolutely correct. So theoretical studies all online, including those case discussions as well. Whereas for those skills that cannot be performed online, that will be face-to-face.
Right. For Yikai, Dr. Yikai, chiropractic, still the teaching and learning activity are the same, right? The method?
Yes, so like similarly theory, we are fully online. For practical final year, we are doing face-to-face. And for other semester practical, we also use a hybrid with online video and also online face-to-face session to teach them. Yeah.
So in Chiro program, for example, teaching and learning, you have lectures, you have tutorial, practical, any others teaching and learning activity you'd like to share with us?
We do also have medical museum sessions to learn the anatomy, and we do also have a laboratory session online as well.
All right. Chinese medicines?
Yes, we are very much alike with Cairo too. So we have a medical museum session too. And right now, it is actually very exciting to share that we have moved on to have so-called virtual 3D anatomy applications used in teaching and learning. So students can actually play with the 3D model layers by layers, and I suppose that would help very much in their learning.
All right. It's a new way of digitalizations of learning, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the updates in teaching pedagogy. One more concern is the examinations. How this pandemic situations is leading the change, especially the way assessment is conducted, in particular the skill-based. Dr. Yikai, maybe you'd like to enlighten us, and then Dr. Hong Fong to follow.
Okay.
Thank you.
So in terms of assessment in Chiro program, we have a 60% in-course and 40% final year exam. So in terms of in-course assessment, we do have practical reports, we have class tests, which is a written, or we have OSCE, and so on. So in terms of all those theory-based exam, we all will be using a system called online assessment system, or in short, we call it OAS. So the system is secure and also being vetted all the questions, ensure the quality of the questions. And in terms of practical assignment based, so we will submit using our Moodle or eLearn portal that the student going to submit, and also some video recording for their practical session for assessment, and lecturer will going to mark it using the eLearn systems.
Okay. Dr. Hong Fong?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ong. So yes, for Chinese medicine, we are also using the same platform. So all our theoretical based studies, so including things like multiple choice questions, short answer questions, problem case, or even so-called OSPE, practical exam, those that involve no skills that cannot be delivered online then that would all be conducted online.
Okay.
Having said that, we would also have things like reports, assignment, similar to what the Cairo has been doing. So we would have that submitted through our eLearn portal. It's designed using the Moodle platform. So yeah, we call it eLearn portal. So students submit through there digitally, and us lecturer, we will also mark it through there digitally. So that is for the online assessment part. But speaking of which, I understand that you want to know how we actually conduct the face-to-face. So like what we talked about just now, those practical clinical skill sessions involving needling, which we cannot do online, or taking pulse, seeing real patient would also involve taking pulse or even doing acupuncture treatment as well. So like those sessions, definitely it cannot be conducted online, and therefore it will be conducted face-to-face. So if the teaching and learning is run in a face-to-face manner, then of course the test or the so-called practical test or clinical examination would also be conducted face-to-face.
All right. So if let's say, in the near future, situation is still if we are still in fluid situations and we cannot come back to the campus, so what would be the is there remedial sessions, practical sessions that it will be supported later on when you can come back to campus?
It will be on a case-by-case basis. Yes, we take into account students' situation because different students have different situation. So after evaluating that situation, we would then try to come up with a more flexible and perhaps even individualized kind of approach for that particular students. So yes, remedial sessions will be arranged for those students that have some kind of difficulty coming back to campus, but it's on a case-by-case basis.
All right. Dr. Yikai?
Yeah, so for chiropractic program, actually, when the government allowed to bring back student in need, especially final clinical years and some practical student, so we do open up the session for the student to come back to do their remedial for their clinical and practical. And also we will be using some of the student their semester break to top up on top of what already been taught on to train their skills and for their clinical and practical session.
All right. Okay. Thank you for the explanation. May I also know what are the pandemic support, provided by the center? For example, you talk about a lot on online learning versus our conventional learning used to be, the platform that you used. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Dr. Yikai, you come first, and then Dr. Fong to follow.
Okay, so as you can see from the screen, so usually we have our Teams, our classes is conducted on Teams, and Teams also allow the student to communicate with our lecturer from time to time when they have questions regarding their learning, and also town hall meeting as frequent as it need when there's any particular changes in assessment or the methods. So we will have a town hall with all our students. So it's a two-way communication with our students to understand how can we support them. And we also have mentor-mentee program. So when every student is matched with a mentor, a lecturer, to support them in need when they are having their difficulties on learning at home or any particular challenges that they face.
All right. Dr. Hong Fong?
Thank you, Dr. Ong. So for Chinese medicine, we also use the same technology subscribed by IMU, and that is the Microsoft Teams. It is part of the Office 365 package. So students, they would have their own so-called Microsoft Teams learning group. We will create it and we will monitor and of course update it from time to time as they progress from semester to semester. So that is the Microsoft Teams learning group that we will create specifically for each intake in Chinese medicine. Under this learning group, students would have the so-called Microsoft Teams channel available for them to study each subject. So whenever there's a new subject coming on, a new Microsoft Teams channel will be created in that particular learning group for that particular intake. And students will therefore be able to see directly what kind of learning activities are there in the channel for each subject. Students would also be able to directly communicate with the associate lecturers as well as the coordinators for that particular subjects. So with that, we will be able to ensure that students are not being left behind when they are having the online studies. On top of that, we also understand that COVID-19 COVID-19 pandemic, the situation keeps changing from time to time. And therefore, we have to, keep ourselves abreast with all these updates. We would also have to pass on these, any such changes as a result of such information change, pass it on to the students. So with that, we would also, from time to time, conduct the so-called town hall meeting. So town hall meeting is like think of it like an AGM meeting. So all students will be called during their free time into a meeting, and they will be able to directly communicate and even voice their concerns about the arrangement and things like this. Town hall meeting is open to everyone, including us lecturer, to all students, as well as to the director of CCAM too. So yes, that is how we keep our communication channels opened and up to date with all students. In regards to the support provided, I understand that studying online is different and it's quite challenging too, especially those with large families staying in the same place. So we do actually provide individualized support. So for Chinese medicine, because our program is relatively small, our lecturers are therefore able to take care of each and every student individually. So students, if they have any learning issues, any particular topics or subjects that they do not understand, of course, we would advise them to first go to seek advice directly from the associate lecturers who teach that topic. But on top of that, we also have a so-called mentor-mentee system, just like what Dr. Wong Yikai has shared just now. And this mentor-mentee system is put in place since the beginning when students first join IMU. So we would assign someone like a mentor to that particular student, and that student will have the same mentor until he or she graduates from IMU. So throughout the study at IMU, whenever the so-called student having any problem, he or she can seek help from a mentor. A mentor will be able to guide students who are facing learning difficulty or are facing some other adjustment. So therefore providing support from the academic perspective. Now, of course, on top of that, we also have the usual one, so-called, we have the self-development unit, where students can actually receive counseling if they wanted to do so. So that's the support that we provide for Chinese medicine students.
Great. That's a very long list of supports that we have in place. How about Dr. Yikai, you like to add any points from your chiropractic program?
Yeah, I think basically what Dr. Fong mentioned is very similar that we have provided in chiropractic in terms of the mentor-mentee, the teams, and also the individualized support for some students who face a particular challenge.
Right. So this is what we have in place to ensure the students' teaching and learning experience are not compromised during the pandemic, right? Including the open communication channel that you all mentioned just now, town hall, and etc. between the centers and the students. Okay, and another concern of the parents and the students, we would like to ask is about safety. What are those SOPs that has been practicing at IMU or even at our CCAM for the both program? Can we hear from you?
Yeah, so in terms of safety-wise, we will reduce the students to come back unless necessary, like we mentioned previously. So tests will be done online and everything, so they do not need to come back to IMU to do it. But if it's required to come back, like the clinical students or the practical students, final practical year students, so IMU have provided all the necessary PPE when they're doing their clinical in IMU or in IMU healthcare. So we provide them gown, face mask, face shield, glove, so to ensure the safety of the student. And even in our CSSC, which is the clinical skills lab, we also ensure student is double mask and face shield as well.
Dr. Fong?
Thank you, Dr. Ong. Yes, for Chinese medicine, we also do the same. So aside from adhering to the strict health and safety SOPs that the government has mandated, that is, you have to wear face mask, scan the myojecta before entering the campus. On top of that, we have also put in place certain things. So just like what Dr. Wong Yikai mentioned just now, when our students go on to clinical attachment, so those are the so-called clinical skill sessions, we emphasize that active protection is actually much more important than just staying at home, because we as a social living being, we are not able to forever isolate ourselves at home. So active protection in this case is much more important. So we would provide PPE gown, gloves, even face shields, and as well as a hand sanitizer to students whenever they have the so-called face-to-face clinical skills. On top of that, we also understand that students are concerned when they come back to the campus. So aside from those active protections that we mentioned just now, we have also put in place requesting students that they have to really look into practice all these active protections, not only when they come back to campus, but when they go out from their home, they should also do the same. So we do encourage students to practice putting on double layers of face mask. That is also needed when students come back to our so-called clinical skills simulation center practical sessions. So practical sessions, double layers of face masks, as well as face shields is also required on top of those, scanning of myojecta and things like this. Now, to ease students concerned, we have also arranged all our senior year students, because those are the students that need to come back for clinical skill sessions, to have their vaccination arranged in a much earlier time. So to date, as far as we know, nearly all our students, those that needs to go for clinical sessions, have actually been vaccinated, either in first dose or second dose, except a few who has some, health conditions, health issues, which, they have received advice not to have the vaccination right now, and which we understand too. So vaccination priority has actually been given to students, especially those who need to come back for clinical sessions. On top of that, we have also issued travel letter to students. So just in case students need to, apply for police permit for crossing state and things like these, we have a travel letter given to students. So therefore, they would be able to travel or commute smoothly without having much issues.
Okay, great to hear. Dr. Yikai, do you have anything to raise on the same similar issues?
Just add a little bit more information. This is not just pertaining to chiropractic. Actually, IMU do a very great effort to ensure the student safety. And in IMU, we have an automated temperature detecting and also facial recognition system. So whenever you want to go into IMU, you need to scan your face. They will record your temperature even before you can use the tag to go into IMU. And they will also do a sanitation before you go in as well. So it's an extra step that IMU have taken to ensure the safety of our student and staff as well.
Right. The message is we concern on the safety of the staff as well as safety of the students, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so may I just sum up like whatever that the teaching and learning activities that we're going to conduct in Chiro or Chinese medicine, those theoretical components largely will be conducted through online, through our platform called Teams or supported by our e-learning system, right? And then for those practical sessions or even clinical practice that they need to come back to the campus, there will be all this PPE, all these gears are standing by, and we have adhering to this strict SOP to ensure the safety of the student and the practice place. So is there anything that you'd like to add on this area?
Maybe I add on one point.
Right.
Speaking about the health and safety of students, just like Dr. Yikai shared just now, IMU has actually put in extra efforts. Just to share another example, that is, we actually limit the number of students to come back. So that is why we have to really plan it down to detail how many students are coming back per day, and we restrict that so that students won't get crowded in one place.
Right. The shows the physical distancing that we
Yep.
are also adhering to that. Great. So, okay, last but not least, may I ask also about job employment opportunity for both programs and any impact on the graduations because of this pandemic? Maybe you like to shed a light for us, Dr. Yikai and Dr. Hong Fong to follow.
Okay. In terms of employmentability, actually for Chiro program, we have alumni working in Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, Taiwan, New Zealand, Australia. So with IMU degree for chiropractic, you can go a lot of countries that recognize as long within the CCA, which is the Council on Chiropractic Education, Australasia, or other like UK and all those as well. So in terms of COVID, they have a slight effect on the student graduation, but it's not a big impact in a way because of the previously lockdown. So the student clinical training has been delayed for a month. So the previous last year student has almost delay of 1 month to complete their studies, but last year all the students has able to graduate in time, and also this year would also expecting with a little minor delay because we cope a little bit much better with the experience last year. So we can see that the students are graduating in time compared all the previous cohort.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Yikai. Dr. Hong Fong, how about Chinese medicines?
For Chinese medicine students, it is half-half. So when I say half-half, what I mean is nearly close to 50% of our students will be able to get a job upon completing the course within a year's time. Whereas the other 50% of students will actually choose to pursue a postgraduate studies, so a master perhaps in Chinese medicine gynecology, a master in so-called pediatrics, or a master in traumatology. So they further their studies, and majority of them actually further studies to China. In terms of graduates, from last year until this year, we have actually 2 intakes graduated. Although slightly delayed a bit, but they actually didn't delay much in the sense that they missed their graduation or convocation. So these 2 intakes, we each have 4 students in the intake, so in total 8 students. Just to share some statistical information for your understanding. Out of these 8 students, actually half of them, so 4 students immediately upon graduate obtain a job to work in Malaysia. Whereas the other half, they are either, still thinking about how to pursue a studies, or they are still looking for job. So these are the kind of up-to-date information that I can share in regards to Chinese medicine graduates.
All right. Okay, that's great. How about the credit transfer students? Can you shed some lights on that for both of the program?
Okay, so in terms of credit transfer for Chiro program, we do credit transfer our students to RMIT, Australia, or
Right.
UK. So in terms of, because if most of you follow the news, the Australia border actually quite tight in a way. Whenever a little bit raise in the number, they will quickly close their borders. So it's actually affected our Australia credit transfer student quite a bit. But we do offer our credit transfer student to proceed with the local track, and or can transfer to the UK track as well. So because our Australia track is after 4 semesters, they're going to the Australia, but after semester 5 only they go to UK. So either they can wait until the Australian border open to RMIT, or they can choose to local track, or they can study one more semester and think whether they want to go for UK track.
I mean, it's flexible, some flexibilities that of the program can match.
Yes, so we do give some option to our student, but the final decision is still the student. Yeah.
All right. And how about Chinese medicine, Dr. Hong Fong?
Yes, for Chinese medicine, we have 2 credit transfer tracks. One is to Australia,
Okay.
basically RMIT. We also have another credit transfer track to China. Now, for China case, because China border right now, even after a year long, it's still actually closed. So to ensure continuity of studies, our Shanghai partner schools, because that is the place that most our students actually transfer to. So they have actually arranged all China-bound students to continue studying online while the border is still closed. So they are currently still in Malaysia, but they are able to continue with their studies online. Whereas for Australia-bound one, I believe the situation is very much similar like what Dr. Wong Yika has mentioned. Even though Australia allows a bit of application to enter Australia, but it's actually very tight. Moreover, on top of that, for Chinese medicine students, they actually have a very short window for continuing in online studies only, roughly about a month. And if they are still unable to reach the border of Australia, that would mean likely they would have their studies slightly been affected, because Australia has a so-called face-to-face clinical attachment too, that they need to fulfill the so-called clinical hour. So that is the situation with Australia. But like what the chiropractic has been practicing, for Chinese medicine, we also have a fallback plan for students too. So in case that students thought that, going to Australia is no longer an option, because it's quite difficult to get in, or going to China, probably don't want to study online for so long, they can also, fall back to the local track, and we would try to arrange and let them join the local track students and continue as quickly as possible.
All right, great. I have here some questions. Can they choose to study online even for face-to-face classes? Let's say next time when you have open up your face-to-face classes in campus, and some of the students says they are actually residing in outstations. Can they choose to study online, joining your online classes, even though you have face-to-face classes available?
For chiropractic wise, because in IMU we have a policy of attendance policy. So for a required session, you are required to have at least 80% attendance. So this include the tutorial, small group learning, practical session, and so. But because of COVID, we does not we do hold that policy in place as well. So we do issue, like Dr. Hong Fong mentioned, we do issue travel letters and all for our students to come back. And we do also encourage them to come back as well, because as chiropractic, we are a very hands-on program. So once the government allow an IMU issue the travel letters for our students, and with all the strict SOPs and additional SOPs that IMU and the program have put in, we will be expecting student to come back when allowed. So if the student really worries, or the parents is very worried about the infection, the outbreak and all those things, so the student also can opt for deferment as well.
All right. How about Dr. Hong Fong in Chinese medicines?
Chinese medicine is also very much a hands-on program. So when the government allows us to return to campus, conducted it in a hybrid manner, we would do so, especially to fulfill the competency of students. We don't want students to graduate in a subpar condition. We still want students to graduate competently, just like those who have not encountered such COVID-19 pandemic situation. So with these, when the face-to-face session is arranged, of course, we would first announce it during the town hall, and then students will be able to do a feedback, raising their concerns whether or not that is actually physically possible for most students. And if that's okay, then we will proceed with such arrangement. Of course, we also understand that, you know, sometimes things may not work as like what we have planned. So, for example, you know, suddenly you've been identified as a close contact, and therefore you have to, you know, self-quarantine at home. That situation can happen. And of course, like what I said just now, such situation is on a case-by-case basis. So therefore, whenever it's like that situation, we would, of course, make separate arrangement for that particular students, but that will be case-by-case basis. If students are, you know, saying that it is interstate, inter-district travel, and they're worried about that, don't worry, because we would issue you with a travel letter, and with that travel letter, you should be able to obtain a police permit for that particular purpose. So there should be no hindrance to it. Yeah.
Right. Understand. So the keyword is that we are not compromising our quality of assurance of the program that we are delivered for both, right? And not to worry, because we have all these SOP that you just mentioned. They are all in place, including the personal gears for them to do the clinical practice to ensure students' safety, right? But however, having said that, we still have options available for them. You know, if let's say they still, you know, cannot come back to campus for certain reason, there are deferment options, or at time we do evaluate the cases on a case-to-case basis lah. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the explanations and answering the concern raised. The last question probably, this one, when will student get to return?
As the situation is fluid, as you mentioned, I would assume that if you come in as semester 1 for the coming cohorts, we are planning for fully hybrid. If you're coming on early first intake next year, so we tentatively are planning a hybrid for next year. So if the situation persists, we might change to fully online for the semester 1 student. So, but we do plan a hybrid for the current final year student to come back for their clinical. Yeah.
So that means like with this October intake, right? Meaning in their semester 1, we are still running on like hybrid, but theoretical we do online. There are certain components that they need to come back to campus. The program will arrange respectively.
The coming September semester 1 is fully online. Initially, we planned for hybrid, but because of the cases is still quite, so semester 1 we have, for this coming semester 1 we have to fully online. But if it's coming next year, February intake, we plan for hybrid.
Oh, I see. So Cairo, next upcoming intake is in September. So for this first semester 1, it will be fully conversions to online. Yeah. Then next year, then you will make the necessary planning and will inform in due course. Yeah. How about Chinese medicine program? The intake is in October, right, Dr. Hong Fong?
September.
September.
Yeah,
all right.
It's all going to start on 13 September, together with Cairo and other programs too. So for this coming intake, for Chinese medicine program, we are planning to do it nearly all online too. However, there are actually a few sessions which we deem not suitable to conduct online, because that involve identifying plants So, you know, learning plants by just looking at pictures, you're not going to able to learn
Differentiate.
much actually. Yes.
Right.
So to help in that, because that is actually so-called the foundation to learning Chinese herbs, we would plan that in a hybrid manner. So for those students who are staying locally, you should be able to return to campus to have that visit. However, for international students who are unable to return on time, we allow this flexibility to have it online. So we would record the videos, and you can look at the videos, perhaps even having an online session. So you would be joining us live, looking at the flowers and plants like this. That is how we plan to do it for semester 1 students.
Okay, that's great. Thank you both, Dr. Wong Yi Kai and Dr. Wong Han Fong. If you have more questions, do you have anything to add before I actually ended this sessions?
No further question, but I mean, if you do have question, you can drop to our open day, and or just can type it into the question Q&A. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Hong Fong, anything to add? Last words?
I think we have covered quite a lot in
Right.
our discussion. So if we have any, you know, specific questions, I think it would be best that we see it in the Q&A chat right now, and then we will be able to answer it immediately directly.
Right. I did not see anything in question and answer yet. So if you have any question, you can drop us in the Q&A panel here. Our virtual open days link are available until 4 p.m. today. This is the link you can reach us for you to check with our education advisor or our faculty members with regards to the 3 programs, which is the Bachelor of Science Honours in Chiropractic, Bachelor of Science Honours in Chinese Medicine, and Master of Science in Acupuncture. So we'd like to thank you for your time spent with us today, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.